And a very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into this edition of This Week of Flyers Hockey. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you. With me, as always, is my group of companions. A little short-handed today, obviously. We got no Austin Hammel because he's still stuck at work and also dealing with a migraine. But joining me once again is my brother from another for the past and have sports show and Joey Marks. Good to see you, Joey. How are you, buddy?
What's up, James? This is going to be an interesting show because I think there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack,
There is.
especially with the last two games, but more importantly, looking forward. I did 23 games to play. We're going to start picking up pace. The train's on the tracks.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And more importantly than anything like that, it looks like the train is going to stay on the tracks for hopefully a little bit because after two good wins over the weekend, uh, obviously they came back from the Olympic break on Wednesday. They played well, but never really got it going. I think Washington was the better team. But bouncing back on Thursday night against the Rangers, that was a very good win for them, even though they were down 2-1 in that game. And then on Saturday rather, it was a very good game for them once again. Actually, Vladar and Swayman were the big storyline in this game. So, Joey, I'll ask you the first question here. So, obviously, the Olympic break is over, and now the Flyers are looking to try to have a little bit much of a reset here. But overall, this is actually really good for the Flyers to get back into a little bit of a streak, even though the games that they lost at the beginning points right before the Olympic break at this point.
Yeah, look, when they came back and they played the Capitals, a lot of the goals that the Caps scored, I kind of go back to the JJ interview and your question to JJ about the backdoor stuff and the outlets and like how can the Flyers stop that defensively? And two out of two of the goals from the Caps in that game were backdoor goals. And I
Mm,
literally, as I was hearing it, I was like, we talked about that with JJ, and for me it was like, eh, okay, have they not fixed anything? It got me
right.
worried
Yeah.
because I'm like, we put it out with JJ 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
I'm like, guys, if we're all seeing it, then you guys have to be seeing it. Like,
Yeah.
so if that's true, then why isn't it fixed? Then you fast forward to the Rangers game
Hmm.
and they're down 2-0, and Erison's in net. And I've been on record on here, on our Patterson Ave Sports Show, and I've said I think Erison's good, not great, serviceable. I think he's a backup goaltender. I think that last year, I would have said last year he was a starting an AHL goalie.
Hmm.
This year, with what performances he put up against the Avalanche and whatnot, it made me think, okay, you're at least a serviceable backup. Okay, I can get that. Now, when we had talked to JJ said, look, 2 years ago, he had a stint where, he had 10, 20 games where he was performing like one of the top premier goalies in the league. And I said, okay, all right, I understand. All right, I'll back off picking on the guy, but he's got to prove it to me. So here we go against the Rangers, down 2-0. I'm thinking, here we go again. Like, this
Yep.
guy's going to fall apart, and we don't have a backup goalie. And now we have to lean even heavier on Dan Villard. And I'm like, this is not okay. I'm not okay with this.
Right.
And then the tide turned, and the turnover started to happen. And you could tell the Flyers' attack changed
Mm.
because early on in the game, the Rangers went up 10-1 in shots on goal in the first period.
Hmm.
10-1. That means that the Flyers couldn't get enough of an offensive start. And as good as Harrison or as not as good as Harrison is, when you face that many shots, probability is you're going to let a couple in.
Right.
And so that being said, the Flyers offense sputtered in the beginning. And JJ also mentioned that the Flyers have been not notorious for getting off to a hot start. And I'll get to that in a minute. Because that all changed in Boston.
That it
With
did.
Boston. So here's the thing. When they were down 2-0, we've said this about this team a couple times, you mean Austin, this season. When this team this year is down 2-0 or down by a couple goals, you would think they're dead in the water, and they don't give up.
Yeah.
They fight back. I mean, this team is resilient. We've used that word several times to describe this team. They're resilient. And now I'm going to talk about, so they fixed in the Rangers game, they fixed those backdoor issues. Okay. So they fixed them from the Caps game to the Rangers game. They fixed it. They made sure that they weren't going to make those same mistakes. Great. You learned from one game to the next. Let's fast forward to the Boston game on Saturday. This is where it blew my mind. The Flyers came out of the gate like Usain Bolt out of the starting gate. Like they were just on fire. And if it wasn't for that Boston goaltender in the first period standing on his head, that could have been a bigger blowout or a bigger score than it was. That goalie had to make a lot of miraculous saves in the first period. So, but the Flyers came out and they were the aggressor. Boston was kind of completely caught off guard. Now, mind you, the one heavy importance about the Boston game is they're the team that we're chasing for that last playoff seed. We were 8 points back. It was a 4-point game. We're down 6 points now to Boston in the, at least unless they played yesterday. But, 6 points to Boston for the last playoff seed. There's 23 games to play, James. We've said this before, and we're going to continue to say it until this team just doesn't have any more left, doesn't have anything left. This team has a chance to make the playoffs. And for all those people, okay, everyone out there can think I'm putting on the orange glasses. But here's the facts. Here's the facts. The 8th seed in an NHL playoffs is not the same as an 8th seed in the NBA playoffs or the last seed in both the NFL and MLB playoffs. The 8th seed in the NHL playoffs, anything goes.
It does.
Anything goes. And that means if the Flyers squeak in at the thinnest of margins, it's a whole new season. And James, one final thing.
Sure.
The Magic Man's back.
Yes, sir.
You got to be impressed. I got to take Paul.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And be impressed about not just the 2 goals, but the fact that what I heard from the report about what Michkov did during the Olympic break, not by team ordered, by himself. He hired a trainer. Now, here's the part I like. This is where Michkov was smart. Give the kid credit. He's smart. He was like, he hired a trainer and he flew down to the Bahamas.
Oh my God.
And he had 2 days in the Bahamas. So I'm like, okay, if you just said he during the Olympic break he had 2 days, okay, that's fine. Then you add he flew to the Bahamas.
That's funny.
Okay. Hey, well, whatever works, buddy.
Well, the funny fact is here, obviously, that's a very good point. It's by you, Joe. I
didn't
think
know there were hockey rinks in Bahamas.
Dude, well, that guy that chimes into the Bahamas. I wonder if he saw Michkov like somewhere around the where he's been located.
I wonder where the local hockey rink is in the Bahamas. I really wonder.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean that was like you said, obviously. The thing that really surprises me the most with that 8th seed is that, mind you, like my dad brings up a valid point here because I was going to bring this up too. The last time they did it was in 2010, and they went to the finals that year. And mind you too. Not only that, they actually had home ice advantage in the Eastern Conference Finals against Montreal. Like they have 1 and 2 games, 1 and 2 here in Philly. After the Canadians beat teams like the Capitals and the Penguins, and I mean, we did our part beating the Devils and the Bruins. But to me, hey, anything goes in the playoffs, man. Like anything is possible when come playoff time. So most importantly, that's going to be something to keep a close eye on. And I got to say right now too, I think another valid point here, my dad Joe Scorza brings up here too, says that I think the Boston game might have been the best game of the season overall in all aspects. I agree. I think this was probably one of their best games of the season. I mean, it was just it looked like they finally found that formula that they've been missing for the last 2 weeks before the Olympic break. Because here's the thing, it was like that springboard of that losing streak. It kind of felt like they lost where they were, and then finally, like on that game against the Rangers, it just clicked just like that. And I think that's probably like they finally addressed that elephant in the room and finally got that monkey off their back for the first time in quite some time. And I think the reason why they did play well is that sometimes like when you have like a losing streak and it starts to linger and turns into a really bad streak, somehow in some way it's like, okay, we gotta find something that we are good at. And whatever Taka did during the Olympic break or whatever he did in the last couple games, it's shown a lot of good pay dirt here. And I gotta say right now, I'm looking forward to this game here tonight with Toronto because Toronto is not one team that's lining up either. I mean, they got one team that's struggling immensely. I mean, Austin Matthews is not scoring a lot. They're probably missing Mitch Marner when he went to Vegas early on in the season. I mean, yeah, the only key components of the Leafs right now is either Matthew Nyes or the other guy, or maybe like a Scott Lawton. But who knows? I mean, right? And the other thing too with Toronto is that they haven't had their goaltender. They haven't had a good goaltender in a while. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I don't know who the goaltender is at this point. I remember it was Samsonov for a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember it was Anthony Stolarz, but obviously it's just like after that happened to them, it's like they kind of go into a downright tailspin. And if they play them in the playoffs if the Flyers play Toronto, let's say, for example, the Flyers are like that 6th or 7th seed, or maybe, and like Toronto's like the 3rd or 4th seed. I'll say right now, I think I got the advantage on that too, Joe.
Yeah, and here's the thing I'll say, and it's interesting how you mentioned in that whole thing 2 former Flyers, and I'll say this: 2 former Flyers that weren't like the premier stars when they were here.
Right.
Like Stolarz was bouncing up and down from the AHL to the Flyers. Lawton was good. I'm not discounting Lawton, but Lawton was a third liner. He was a power 3 at that point. One of the things that I would say though, especially with the Toronto, and I'm going to ask. Okay, so first off, I want everyone to respond to your dad with the whole
2010 thing.
That Boston was the best game of the year. I still want to say at the Avalanche because right now the Avalanche looks like that, like the Joe Sakic, Patrick Waugh kind of Avalanche. So for us to go into Colorado and whoop them like that we did, and I get it, we could have caught them on a bad night. I understand that, but the one thing I would say about the Boston game is it almost got away from the Flyers. And that's what worried me until they scored the empty net goal, of course. But at one point, the Bruins, they cut it to 1, and then they emptied the net, and they put a lot of pressure on Villard with Pasternak and all those guys. So it was intense. It was like 1 minute and 16 seconds of just straight intensity at one point in time. So that was a little nerve-wracking.
It was like a little bit of helter-skelter a little bit too.
But I'm glad they pulled it off. I just still think Colorado is still the apex of this season so far. I think that was a good game that they needed. That's the difference. The Avalanche are in the West and Boston's in the East. Boston, like I said earlier, that was a 4-point swing of a game, like a win. So, yeah, I could kind of see it that way. As far as, and I want to ask you the question about the Caps game before I dive into what you brought up about the Toronto. I don't want to make excuses because I don't make excuses on these airways for anybody, for any team. Do you think that was rust? Like that was them shaking off the rust, like from the break.
Yeah, I would think so. I think it was probably a little bit of rust from that hangover that they dealt with like in that before the Olympic break. And I think the other thing too that kind of sticks to me the most is that yeah, I think it was a little bit of rust right after that Capital game because it felt like they were doing the same old things. I mean, it was kind of like, I mean, early on in the game though, I mean, there was times in that first period they actually were getting their bearings back a little by little. But then they
Yeah,
had that second period critique that they have always. Actually, it's been a trend all season going up to this point. But then the third period, they finally went back to that again. And I'm
yeah.
thinking, okay, they got them on the ropes, but they just really couldn't get it going. I mean, it was just like Ovechkin was too lethal, or it was the Ryan Leonard
Most
got
it,
over.
it was the defensive players. It was,
Yeah,
I mean, most of
yeah,
those goals were scored by defensemen in that
oh yeah,
game. That was the thing. The grade eight
didn't do
wasn't
much.
really a
Yeah,
factor, but like just his presence on the ice is enough. You know, he draws enough attention. But to touch base with the Toronto game tonight, you know, you're right, and I'm not sleeping on any team though. This is where even
mm,
if you feel like this team in Toronto is kind of teetering back or
sure,
tilting back, you got to put your foot on their throat and take them out. Like
absolutely.
you gotta right now with these 23 games, the Flyers have to be in playoff mode now.
Hmm.
Like it's hard to be in playoff mode for 2 straight months. But if you want to make a long run, that's what the Flyers have to do right now. They
Yeah, for
have to
sure.
go into playoff mode now.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess we could transfer segue it this into the keys of the game here tonight. So for me, what they did a couple weeks ago before the Olympic break had me worried. Like, okay, is there a way out of this? Like, I was asking JJ, is there a way they can reset this? Like, they could try to reset, like what Brian Boucher said,
Mhm.
and he says, yeah, there's a possibility that they could do a reset, but then again, it's just like they got to find the right formula to try to have that reset. And I think the most important thing that I am really happy, I'm not happy about, but I'm ecstatic about more than anything, is that they find ways to look. They look like they found that formula and that Boston game, and I think it's going to springboard into a little bit of a streak now. And like you said, 23 games is like Rick Tucker's probably like, okay, we got 23 games left, boys. Show me what you got, and that's kind of like the same scenario that they had. I mean, obviously now that he probably pulled a little bit of a Peter Laviolette and said, play with some jam, boys. Like do X, Y, and Z, but look, I mean, like if they make the playoffs, man, they could not be. I mean, that's the thing about that 2010 Flyers team. They got hot at the right time. I mean, they're
Yeah.
getting hot at the right time, just like that 2010 team. And most importantly, like if they like a seventh or eighth seed, I would say right now, like the ball's in their court, man. I really believe so. I think like this is the same Flyers team I wanted to see early on in the season, but then that sluggish of a streak went by. But I'm glad the formula is starting to have that reset again, and probably that Olympic break helped them to nurse that hangover a little bit too. Gonna admit, Joe.
Well, I mean, so one of the things that someone had said during I think it was the Boston Bruins game because he was the one that brought up about Mitch Koff's training, and he said this is a guy who did it voluntarily. This is a guy who's come back since the Olympic break, and he looks a lot better. He looks like he's in much better shape. And look, you know, Mitch Koff. All right, I've never played hockey with a Russian. I'm just going to go on the record and say that. But from what I know about Russian hockey players, they take it very seriously. They're very, very proud of where they come from and what they do and the sport that they play. That being said, I'm not surprised Mitchkov got his ass in gear and did the right thing. That being said, the keys to the game for me tonight there's really like two. There's really two that stand out most, and that is number one, the Flyers have to come back out and they have to get off to that fast start again. They have to do what they did to Boston. They have to jump all over Toronto because Toronto, if unlike Boston, if you do that to Toronto, they might shell up. They might not be able to bounce back, and that's different Because, like I said, that Boston game would have been much different if you take away a couple of those saves. I mean, that goaltender stood on his head for the first period. The second key to the game is definitely continued success for Michkov. I think Michkov and guys like Segrist and guys like Travis Konechny, I think those are your three guys that need to kind of carry the offense and lead the charge. You're going to have the Noah Cates. You're going to have, these Bobby Brink. You're going to have these guys, Denver Barkey. You're going to have these guys. You need Travis Konechny. Yes, I would love to see Owen Tippett step up. I haven't seen it yet. I know it's possible. Just like Rhys Hoskins, I know Owen Tippett has it in his bag of tricks to go on a tear. And if that happens, I'll take it all day, every day, twice on Sunday. But, I want to see Michkov take the next steps and surprise the rest of the critics that have already counted him out for this year. 23 games left in this season. There's a lot of hockey left to play for a player like Michkov to prove that I'm not as bad as you all made me out to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing too that I think that who needs to get hot here more than anything. I think Konechny is a good example of that. I think Konechny probably will get hot at those times. And the other thing that makes it even more astounding for me is that I actually called it on on Saturday. I said I think TK needs the guy that needs to step it up here. And you can see that game at Washington, he was beyond frustrated, about how it was and all that too. But
well, yeah, he broke his stick, he destroyed his helmet, he tore his glove. He was a little pissed off. It's the equipment's fault.
Yeah, it's sure. Yeah, it was the equipment's fault. Absolutely. The other thing too is that it's a valid pointer that my dad brings up here too. He says the defense needs to stay consistent in the zone and no chasing and stay positioned well and no leaks and no let up. Yeah, I think that's the other thing too, because it's weird because I think the Flyers need to do now is that they have to go back to what they were at the beginning of the season. I mean, obviously, the quote Jay, what hurts here is definitely to keep the main thing. And I think this, I can keep on harping about this Olympic break until I'm blue in the face, but I think it helped them a lot. I think it helped them in immensely of ways that they still that the best. Well, the best thing that happened to them is that they can show a lot of poise, and I think they're going to show more poise as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that you could definitely check off when you say that, especially when we're talking about defense, Rusto has gotten his confidence back, which is nice to see. Sanheim has shown stability. So that pairing in and of itself has been probably the strongest defensive pairing I've seen in quite some time. Now it's unfortunate that at some point soon we're gonna have to be talking about the possibility of Ruotsalainen. I mean, a week from tomorrow,
sure,
it'll be less than that, right? It'll be
something like that. Week. I think it's this week in a minute.
Yeah, this
right around the corner.
March
6th. That's right.
So
well, just a few days away. That's right.
Yeah. So you have the idea that Rusto is potentially a big trade piece. Losing that defensive guy, you got to ask yourself who you're bringing in. Now, I agree because I saw this with the Caps game. I saw this with the Boston game. This team is hurting for centers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not even it's funny, but it's not funny. It's like JJ hit the nail on the head. These guys have every 6'5" winger in the league, but they don't have enough centermen to kind of take these face-offs that are crucial. And James, let's face it, when we get into the playoffs, face-offs matter because when you're in the offensive zone, you don't want to leave it, especially in a pressure cooker situation like the playoffs. You want to make sure that either you stay in your offensive zone or you can clear your defensive zone to make sure that you take pressure on. I mean, put pressure on or take pressure off the opposing or your goaltender. And that's the difference. So, I mean, let me get your take on it. I mean, what would your feelings be? I mean, it really looks like Rusto is going to be on his way out. What are your feelings about what the I guess what the look of this team might look like after Rusto's gone?
I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be all right. I don't think. I mean, the thing with Rusto, I like Rusto. I mean, I liked him
You're
from
the
the
one
very
that called him to come here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You were the one that called the shot, and when it happened, I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. So for me, I think the other thing that I was kind of surprised about, but I didn't know about his injury history that to this point.
Mm.
I thought his injury history was a little bit far fetched though, because I did not know about like his obviously when it was with the Sabres, I thought he was like, oh, okay, he's like hitting players, this, that, and the other, and it felt like nobody could stop him. And then the linger, and the lingering factor is that yeah, I mean the injury bug has been his concern for the most part. But yeah, I mean for the most part, I think it's probably yeah, I mean, if we had to see him go, I think it'll be better off if he goes somewhere that we can just like the thing about it too is that I ask here too is that if you trade Rusto, what's in it for us in return? You know, like what's in it for us? Yeah, I think I would go after like a centerman or go. I mean, there's not a lot out there for like Rusto to get some key components and stuff. But if I had to pick like one team, maybe like a Utah team and bring in somebody, obviously you're not going to get Clayton Keller, or obviously you're not going to get like one of their key components, but maybe like somebody in the wings of that, maybe probably like doing Gunter is a good example of that. Maybe, well, I mean,
I'm trying to focus on
I'm trying to
teams
figure out somebody that's.
I'm
I'm
trying to
not sure
figure
about
out
that.
I'm trying to figure out teams that are primed to go to the playoffs,
Hmm.
but that are struggling on defense, because those are the teams that are going to want Rusto and are willing to give up like a third or fourth line center, because they might. It's a trade off that they're willing to have, because they'll put Rusto on their first defensive pairing, or their first defensive pairing. So yeah, I'm thinking of like Vegas. I'm thinking of like Edmonton. I know Edmonton's been thrown out there. Um, I know that Winnipeg's been thrown out there. Like you got some of these teams that need help defensively. Rusto's the man to do it, and this is an asset that I think someone like Danny Briere is just trying to make the right move. You just got to hope he doesn't outmaneuver himself, meaning he doesn't make any move, and Russo stays on the squad. His contract runs out at the end of the season, and you don't get anything for him in return, and
Right.
you're not able to really re-sign him, or you're not willing to at that point.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that like obviously you're not gonna get like a big margin player. Like
No,
you're not gonna get like a, dare I say, like Shane Doan in his prime, or someone like in that field,
Kaprizov
or
or anything.
Kaprizov. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Maybe like Alex Tuck could be an example of that. Maybe like he goes back to
Maybe.
Buffalo. Maybe like Payne Krabs, or maybe actually I know the other guy I was thinking of was JJ Paterka, but I don't think Paterka's that good either. But I mean, yeah, I mean there will be players out there that will keep a close eye on to see what they'll do. But I would be sure. I think I would be sure like Rusto will be gone. But I'll tell you right now, if you can get Rusto to Dallas and you get like Wyatt Johnston or somebody in that field of that Dallas Stars team, I would be like, okay, maybe,
Speak it
maybe.
into existence, James. Speak it into existence. Let it
So
let
yeah, I
it
mean,
say it.
just
Let it happen.
I would hope so. I like Wyatt Johnston. I mean, I'm not a big Dallas Stars fan like I used to, but I just like something to just to annoy Dallas even more, just annoy the Dallas Stars even more. I mean, sure you're not going to get Rantanen, sure you're not going to get Jason Robertson, but give me Wyatt friggin' Johnston. Give us a damn sniper, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's move it on here. So obviously we got The Flyers taking on the Leafs here tonight, obviously. But this is something that I found interesting during the week too. Um, Joe, did you know this week that the Flyers coming up this week got some good key components to this game? Obviously, tonight they got Toronto, and I think I'm not sure, but we got Utah. Speaking of Utah, so we'll see like Dylan Gunter and Clayton Keller coming up on March the 5th, and then the Penguins on Saturday. So when you know it, there's 3 games coming up this week that have probably some expectations that these teams could probably be in the postseason. So obviously, the question I'll ask you is that how do you think they do this week with those 3 teams? I mean, do you see them splitting? Do you see them sweeping? Do you see them like just taking 2 out of 3? Because I see some pretty good wins in these last couple games or so. I see some good wins this week.
I always kind of hate to do this because I feel like it's kind of like the jinx, but I gotta say 3-0. Like I honestly think they can clean sweep this, and then thinking about that because we've talked about this, that would put them at a 5-game win streak. People have talked about how that this team needs to start stringing wins together. Okay, what better time than now? Like you string some wins together, and you're talking like you get to 5, and we sit here a week from today, and we talk about the next week's games, and who knows, we may be talking about a 7-game, 8-game win streak at that point. And look, that's not beyond the pale for this team because it really just it's really dependent on their energy. Look, this team, for what it's worth, because they don't have that McDavid, they don't have that like guy that's the superstar, that can carry the team when the rest of the team is dragging ass. Because they are such an even keel team, talent-wise, if one person drags ass, it's almost like everyone does. And then that shows on the ice. And that's why I feel like they've had some lapses in defensive assignments and lapses in games that have felt like they have had no energy. That's the difference. I think if this team, because that's why I was so impressed with what they did against Boston, because they came out with so much energy, and I just went, okay, this team's not messing around today. We had our Cheerios, we had our coffee, we're ready to go. Like that made me feel like, okay, this is the difference. This is what we need to see more of. Now, that being said, when you start stringing wins together, it does help motivate you to go into a game, the next game, because you might be on a 5-6 game win streak. It motivates you for that next game to say, okay, let's go get it again, boys. Let's go do it again. Like it motivates you to get out the gates early. But when you are 2 on, 2 off, and you're just kind of malign and you're just mid, it doesn't help to get the team up and out the locker room the way that they need to be. So they need to come out with energy. They need to sustain the energy. We talked about earlier stealing points. Now it's not about stealing points. It's about stealing hearts. It's about taking hearts away from these people, these teams that think that they can outplay you. Show that you can outplay them. We are the 3rd youngest team in the NHL. Show them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing too is that I want reputation from that Utah Mammoth game at the beginning of the year, because you thought about that game. They had the game in the wraps. Like they had that game in the wraps, dude. Like Joe, they had literally when I went down in my studio, I said to myself, is they got this game already won. And then it was like 3-2. Then I was like, wait a second, now 3-2. Like, wait, when did it? No, wait, whoa, now it's tied. Now it's tied, and then I come back up, and now it's 4-3, and they win in overtime. I'm like,
I've been there. I've been there before, where I'm like, oh, okay, it's 3-0. Okay, it's middle second. Okay, I'll watch 5 more minutes, and then I'll turn it off and turn something else on. This is a blowout. Like, okay. So I've done it where I've turned the game off, and then all of a sudden someone's texting me like, "Did you see the goal?" Like, what? Huh? What? What are you talking about? It's 3. It was 3-0. Yeah, it's 3-3. What? What? When did this happen? And so like that's the thing is momentum. And like I said about the Boston game, now that was only one goal, but that game could have easily tipped in a bad way if the Boston Bruins would have tied that game and taken this to overtime. That would have felt more disappointing because we had them 2-0. And for the longest time, we had them down 2-0.
And we had them in the wings, man.
Yeah, and so it felt like the same thing when we played Utah earlier in the season. So like you can't. That's why I'm saying with Toronto and with Utah coming up and with Pittsburgh, you cannot take any of these for granted at all. You have to come out with energy. You got to get on the board early, and you got to keep your foot on their neck. Because here's the thing: when you take your foot off, and I know it's easy to, when you're up 3-0, you dump the puck in, you chase it, blah blah blah, kill time. Fine. That sounds good, but it's not always the best strategy. It's better to keep the pressure down, the pedal down, because I'm not worried about a game until it's 6-0 or something like that, like really absurd. Because then it's like, okay, literally your goaltender could be like, okay, I'm just gonna stand here. Okay, you guys tell me when the goal comes.
We showed our youth today.
Yeah, like when the puck comes closer, just yell. Just holler, like we're good.
Yeah, just smack the stick like it's a PowerPoint,
Yeah, it's like okay, like that's kind of the point that I'm getting at about the energy. This team needs to, and we've seen it countless times this season. So I know it exists. Like that's the problem that I had is last year. It felt like I knew what this team was, even though I wanted them to be something different. But they couldn't be something different because that's not who they were. Like they weren't this really super talented, super, collaborative, super, energetic and motivated team. This year, you've seen it. Now, yes, you've had lulls like you brought up, but here's the thing. It's a long 82 game season. It happens. Now it's about how you bounce back. And James, if the Flyers, with 23 games left to play, go into the playoffs scorching hot off of, let's just say, the back of 2 8-game winning streaks in the next 23 games. You mean to tell me that there's not going to be other teams in the NHL that ain't going to go, uh-oh. Because that's not a team they want to face. Because this team then will have confidence, hunger, motivation, and energy.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing too that's a positive here too for this Flyers team. I think these 2 games that came up here over the weekend and the Rangers and the Bruins game, I think the best way to put it out there is that just do the same thing like you did the 2 games prior to that. I mean, the Washington game was good, but they never really got it. I mean, they got it going, but they never really sustained that, But now I think you think about it, like those 2 games in that third period that you mentioned with the Rangers and that game, that full 60 minutes of complete hockey on Saturday, I think it can transfer into a little bit of a streak now, a little bit of a springboard into a little bit of a streak here. Because this week, I mean, you got Toronto coming up tonight. You got, like I said, Utah. I know for sure they're going to be definitely looking for hunting for bear on that game because that's one game that could have easily been a victory for them if they continue to put the foot on the gas. And the Penguins game, I mean, that obviously, I mean, I want reputation for those couple Penguins games that we lost during the season. I mean, we do well at home, but I like to see them get annoyed at their own barn because I don't know what the last time I can remember that we actually won a game in Pittsburgh. Probably going back to like 2012. I mean, not 2012, but maybe like I could probably remember like maybe like sometime before, maybe like Dave Haxtell or Chuck Fletcher's days, because it's been a long time since we've actually won in Pittsburgh.
Well, here's the thing, James. I'm going to ask you this: the 23 games left, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this team went 14-9
Mm.
or 15-8,
Mm.
you tell me this team's not playoff bound, and you tell me this team's not, you know, ready at that point. If they're able to do that with the next 23 games, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'll take 50. I'll take 14-9. I'll take 15-8.
As do I. I do too. Yeah, I would. I'm right there with you. I think I'll take 15-8. If you can go 15-8, that's not bad. That's not bad
Sure,
at all.
sure,
I mean, even 14-9 is essential too. I think
sure.
14-9 is, yeah. If you can like, the other thing too is that if you can get into the playoffs as either a 7th or 8th seed. So right now we will be playing, if hindsight being 2020, if this is April 17th or sometime around there, we will be playing. Let me double check here. I would guess we'll be playing. Let's see NHL standings. I'm trying to figure out here who we could play. Let's see. So right now we'll be playing like either Tampa Bay or maybe one of those top seeds. It'll be either Tampa Bay or Carolina. So if you play Carolina, it's. I think we can beat Carolina. I mean, we were able to closely beat. We almost beat them in the season, obviously at the beginning of the season, but
Twice.
twice. Yeah,
Twice.
yeah. I think we got a good. I think my hindsight being 2020, if the Flyers had to play Carolina today, I think we'll be very good with. I think we'll do very well with them. I mean, Tampa Bay gives me headaches, dude, all the time.
we still have Stamkos, LeCavier, St. Louis.
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
we still have hangovers over those guys. We still
Nikolai
have
Harvey
nightmares for those
Bowen. I
guys.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
like Nikolai Harvey Bowen and friggin' what was the other guy? Well, actually, no, not Vasilevsky. There was a Ben Bishop or
Yep.
like all those. Yeah, Tampa Bay. I mean, the other thing too with Tampa Bay though, they're not really laying it up either. I mean, the Sabres
Wow.
are actually having a come to Jesus moment now too. I mean, they actually finally like said enough is enough, and we're gonna forget about the tank and we're gonna go all out. I mean, look, you know what? Screw it. I'll go with the Sabres. I want the Sabres too. I'll be okay with the Sabres in the first round. I mean, if it gets us, I mean, I'll be okay if it's Columbus. I'll be okay if it's Detroit. I'll be okay if it's one of those Metro teams. Honestly, I just want to get in.
I'll tell you this right now. It would be apropos if it was Buffalo.
Yeah. So what
because Danny Briere played for Buffalo and for the Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be apropos that with Danny Briere at the helm, the first playoff appearance that the team under his charge would play his former team. And so it's so interesting to me because I honestly think from what I've heard, what I'm hearing all around, James, so many people are counting this team out. And I'm just like, I heard the one commentator during the telecast on Saturday who basically said, do not sleep on this team because this team is putting it together at the right time. And if they are able to keep it together, they're going to be dangerous going down the stretch. And I couldn't agree with him more because I was like, sometimes, and I've said this about baseball, and it's true. Hockey, it's the same, but it's a little different. You have to come in hot and stay hot. You know, you can't sustain. If you go into the hockey playoffs and you lose the first 2 games, it's tough. Even if you're the underdog, it's tough. But like if you go into a hockey playoff and you go toe to toe, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, like anything can happen. And the Florida Panthers are a prime example of that. Boston Bruins a couple years ago, where they had the best record in NHL history, were a prime example that you don't need to be the best team regular season wise to be the best team in the playoffs. And so if the Flyers don't need to be the best team in the regular season, they need to be the best team in the postseason.
Absolutely. That's the other thing too is that like they can be the best team in the regular season, but come playoff time, you know, there's two times that happen. I mean, we brought it up earlier that two times that happened when the team that gets in the final week of the regular season, I mean, you can remember the Phillies in 2022,
Yep.
like they got in the last week of the season
Yep.
and they took that to the World Series. So anything is possible. I mean, baseball and hockey are like kind of like very close to each other,
They're
like
similar in how, like, if a team
the
gets
seeding.
hot, right? Well, if a team gets hot, they somehow can ride that wave.
Hmm.
Whereas in the NFL, if a team, it's hard for a team to get hot because you take a week off. Like, so everyone gets like a week to prepare, like with baseball and hockey, it's like you get hot, you're back at it the next day or then the 2 days later. Like, so you're right back at it. You don't have time to cool down. Football, you do. Basketball, I know people might be saying, well, what about there?
Maybe
Sort
March
of.
Madness though. Maybe March Madness more than NBA going to make.
Yes, I would agree with that. March Madness more than the NBA because I think the NBA is more
Script. I won't say scripted, but you kind of know the whole dialogue. You know what I mean?
well, I would say that the NBA is more cerebral,
Yeah.
cerebral in the sense that like they're taking more threes. There's not a lot more athleticism as far as like guys going to the hole like there once was. In college basketball, these guys are just throwing themselves around. They're just young kids that are just flying all over the court. Yes, there are sharpshooters in the college ranks too. I get that, but for the majority of the people that come out, I mean, look at VJ Edgecombe. He was one of the top draft picks this past year for the Sixers. He didn't have a 3-point shot. He didn't really have one. He was just an athletic defensive guard that, was efficient when getting to the hole. That's what we wanted. Now, when you go into the NBA game, it becomes more cerebral in that guys slow the game down, like James Harden, and they put you to sleep, and then they shoot a three, and then they go down the court. With baseball and hockey, momentum is a thing.
Yeah, football
Momentum.
playoffs are like in that same caliber too, gonna admit too, Joe.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: with football, they have a week. They have a week to kind of
Right.
cool down.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
does.
true. That's true.
So, like, if football was played now, NFLPA would get on their horse if they ever heard this.
Right.
Football should be played every third day. What?
Like how they
What?
do.
What? Every third day you're trying to kill these men? No.
Christ.
But what I'm trying to say is, can you imagine how, like, when we're talking about like teams getting on a heater, like in hockey and baseball, if football was like that, it will never be like that. But if football was like that, that's how teams could get on a heater, similar to hockey and baseball, because there's a quicker turnaround. Like there's a quicker like, hey, Jalen Hurts had 25 for 32. Okay, 4 days later, he goes 25 for 40. Okay. Next game, he goes 28 for 45.
Right.
Okay. Like all of a sudden, you're seeing this consistency. And I know how people are like, well, Josh Allen's able to do it every year. Josh Allen's able to do it because his defense gives him very little. He always has to throw. Like, yes, they have a run game. Sure, that's true. But like, when you're throwing a 40-yard bomb and you get receivers that can catch it, yeah, sure, you're taking a gamble. But
Right.
last time I checked, Josh Allen doesn't have a Super Bowl ring.
That's true.
So you haven't gone to the mountaintop yet.
You haven't reached the
So
pinnacle yet. Yeah, and it's hard to believe it's going to be coming up on his 9th year next year or 8th
so
or somewhere around there.
so we have to kind of put this in perspective, and we're going to in the coming shows leading into the playoffs is as weeks go by, James, as these shows go by, we're going to start evaluating really how good this team is. And again, we said this to JJ, asked this to JJ. If the Flyers make the playoffs, does that mean they're ahead of schedule in the rebuild? And we also reversed that question. If they don't make the playoffs, does that mean they're behind schedule in their rebuild? And JJ said something very poignant, which was neither are true. Like if they make the playoffs, it's great, but it doesn't make them ahead of schedule. If they miss the playoffs, it sucks, but it doesn't make them behind schedule. What puts them on schedule with the rebuild is the progression of the young talent. The guys like Mitchkov, the guys like Tippett, the guys like Brink, the guys like Zegras, the guys like Noah Cates, those guys. What we see from those guys for the next 23 games is going to determine what and how far this rebuild has gotten, how far it's gotten to so far. And yes, the cherry on top will be a playoff appearance.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it would be. I think the other thing too here that makes it even more better here for the Flyers too. If they make the playoffs, they would open up a lot of eyes for like naysayers that doubted this team. Like for an example, like when do you ever hear the Flyers on NHL Network say, "Yeah"? I mean, you hear it little by little, but then it grows away. I mean, there will be actually like reporters like reporting from like this virtual. Obviously, this is like a virtual background that we have here. But imagine all that in like orange T-shirts and like a sea of orange crush and like orange jerseys, and it just I miss that feel, man. I do.
This is what's going to happen when the Flyers make the playoffs. So all the talking heads on sports talk.
Sure.
What is
That's
this?
who. That's who.
What is this? What is this?
I can't.
What is it?
Shoe to ass, the belt to ass.
No. What kind of shoe is it?
Oh, an Adidas flip flop.
They're gonna flip flop. That's what's gonna happen, folks. They're gonna flip flop. They're gonna flip flop their take. That's what's gonna happen in sports talk radio. When the Flyers make the playoffs, they're gonna flip flop. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, here's the other thing too. Obviously, the Eagles AJ Brown situation doesn't go away anytime soon. But once the Flyers make the playoffs, they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." Yeah, because you weren't listening. you assholes weren't listening.
You weren't paying attention.
No,
you weren't paying attention.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. And so the other thing too is that I know this is our last topic of the day here, and I'll close it out with this. 23 games left to go in this season. You got to make the most out of it. You know, I want to see that same level of feel for 23 more games. I want to see that springboard into a little bit of a streak. You go into the playoffs and you're coming in hot. The crowd is buzzing. Like the crowd is electric. Lauren Hardwain sing national anthem. Hopefully they bring back the Kate Smith. But obviously I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to keep it political here because everybody could. There's two sides of that coin. I'm not going to go there. But anywho, if the Flyers make the playoffs here, I'm right across the street from. I'm not far away from the Wells Fargo Center now, or Xfinity Mobile Arena, whatever it's called. I can just walk down there and do like you know how like Iraq used to do like recordings from the stadiums back in the day. That would be like me. You know what? Let's bring it back, boys. Let's bring back Flyers playoff hockey again. I'm sold on it. I'm remember you said I'm painting my flag. These 2 games, if they can do this for 23 more games, you bet your ass I'll be putting that flag. Wait, and I'll be repping my team in the jersey. I got the Flyers t-shirt to show it. Let's go, boys. Let's get it.
I mean, here's the thing: 23 games left, 6 points back. Things that people said about this team and about how bad of a job Danny Briere's done and Keith Jones has done and Rick Tocchet has done. Look, there have been setbacks, but this team is still in the hunt, like full on in the hunt. And the one thing I've learned from this year's Flyers, I said it when I talked about the Rangers game. For whatever reason, this team does not know the meaning of die. And so I don't think that's going to – I think that meaning kind of translates to their playoff push. They're not going to know when to die because they know that there's a chance, there's a window. Someone like knocked on the door between the Caps game and the Rangers game and was like, oh, yeah, by the way, you guys still have a chance at the playoffs. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And then all of a sudden it was like, it's time to turn it on. Look, it sounds corny. It sounds cliche, but this is the truth. Boys, you got 23 games for the rest of your life. Play them like it matters. Play it like it means something. Play it like you want it. Like you want the playoff berth. Like you want to hear the roar. Because as we've said before with Eagles playoff games, and Eagles players have said it, wow, it's different here when it's playoffs. With Phillies players, wow, it's different here when it's playoffs.
But, yeah.
I'll tell you, all kiddos that are in the orange and black sweaters, when you bring playoff hockey to South Philadelphia, it's different.
It is.
It's different than anywhere else you will ever go because this fan base is bananas for this team. And we want something to cheer for. So all we're asking for is for the next 23 games, give us that thing to cheer for.
Absolutely. And the other thing too here, I brought it up last week. I know this is like a little bit of a custom goal horn I made, but I want to hear this. I want to hear this a lot more come April 5th. If that doesn't get you pumped up, nothing will, man. I'm telling you, I can't wait until. I mean, it's just, I had that feeling back in 2010. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was at that Flyers. Yeah, that game against the Rangers when they made the postseason. I didn't care I had a broken foot that day. I didn't care. I was like Andrew WK. I'm celebrating, motherfuckers. I didn't care if I tore my Achilles or had a metatarsal bone. I didn't care, man. That was unbelievably exciting. Like Harry Kellis said after the 2007 when the Phillies got to the playoffs for the first time, it was probably one of the best things. I remember I was going home and I was like seeing this one guy says, yeah, we're going to the playoffs, dude. I was like, yeah, and one more step of kissing that Stanley Cup and bringing that cup back down, bro. So he's like, my man, dude, let's get it. I was like, oh, dude, like, oh man, it was such. I want that back, dude. I'm getting goosebumps, dude. I'm literally getting fucking goosebumps.
Here's the thing. That day, that game, I actually had a birthday party for a friend's kid, and so I was keeping track of the game on my phone, and I'm in the car. And I'm getting driven home, and me and my wife are in the car, and we get home, and I pop the game on, and my wife's like, what is such the urgency? And I'm like, the Flyers could make the playoffs. It's important. Hush. I need to focus. And so it was the third period. It was 4 minutes and 50-some seconds left. There was a shot on goal. And I remember Boucher got into it with one of the Rangers guys.
Yeah.
Because one of the Rangers had elbowed him in the face mask. And I just remember going, okay, Boucher's going to kill somebody. Yeah. We don't need you to kill somebody, Boucher. We need you to stop pucks. Right. So then when the final horn, sounded, and you saw Boucher with the celebration.
Oh, wow.
That was the moment. Just seeing him be that overjoyed, that was the moment where it was like there are only a couple moments in Philadelphia sports history that I remember, and I can envision like the player and their jubilation. One was Boucher's celebration. Another one was Shane Victorino and him running in from center field when they won the World Series. Like, there's just certain things.
Brad Lynch with the going down to his knees and winning it. Yeah, that was great.
Like,
man.
This is the thing. Is I want and just let's put this in perspective because I don't think this has been mentioned yet. And I know we're putting the cart well before the horse, but if the Flyers make the playoffs, and let's just say they win a round or two, okay, and
Mhm.
that's great. That's great. So here's my thing. How much more confidence do you think they go to the second round, they get beat? Okay. They go into the offseason. All these kids are young.
Right.
What do you think the confidence level is going to be them coming back to next year? Now, all of a sudden, it's not Danny Briere and Keith Jones and Rick Tockett's timeline for the rebuild. It's the players' timeline because they're going to look at themselves and like, no, we're good enough. We went to the second round of playoffs. We're good enough. Let's stop acting like we're not. Like, they buy into their hype. It's something that I saw with the Gagne Flyers.
Yeah.
That team grew up with each other, and once they made the playoffs and they got to like the second round, they were like, "Wait a minute." The next year, like, "Wait a minute, why? People are still saying if we don't make the playoffs, it's okay." I'm like, "Wait a minute, we made the playoffs last year.
Right.
We're going to make the playoffs. We want to be in the cup. We don't want to just make the playoffs." So I will say this. It will be interesting to monitor how far the Flyers can go, and especially like come next season, what that turnover is going to be. So going far this season will have repercussions to the next season. We know that. So that's another reason why I want them to go far, because the more experience they can garner now, the better their opportunities and chances are later to growing together stronger.
You know the best thing about it too? Once you make the playoffs, it's like we always talk about it with the Eagles. It's a different atmosphere. Philly, same thing in 2022 after 11-year drought and then those rally towers being waved. The Sixers, I would say it's different too, but now it's like, okay, now you got to win. I mean, the experience is over. Like you got
Yes.
you have to put up,
Been
shut up
there,
now.
been there, done that. Show us something new.
I mean, this isn't
That's
like
what it is.
this is not 2001 with the Sixers and they're in the finals and you're playing Fat Boy Slim. No, it's not. It's not like
Yeah.
that. But there is a time that the Flyers could really do. Like, I want that atmosphere to come back because, like, obviously, after a while watching the Sixers, not going to lie to you, it's like you kind of know the storyline, you kind of know the ending to it. But now with the Flyers, I mean, the Phillies, we'll see what the Phillies would do. Obviously, come Red October, but we'll worry about that on another topic here. But
I think the Flyers are the biggest wild card team in Philadelphia sports right now to
I think so.
possibly surprise a lot of people. Because I think if the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, no one would be surprised. If the Phillies went to the World Series, no one
It's
would
like
be
finally,
surprised.
you finally
Yeah,
now win it.
it wouldn't be surprised. It would be like, well, about goddamn time. So, but if the Flyers make the playoffs and then make a good run, yeah, it's going to turn heads. It's going to turn heads
I would think
really
so.
quickly because it's the wild card no one's expecting. And all of a sudden, all these pundits that are on Sports Talk Radio that don't know how to talk hockey are going to have to learn because it's going to be playoff hockey in Philadelphia. So y'all going to learn today because
Yep.
when this team makes it to the playoffs, it's not going to be a one and done. I can tell you that right now. They're going to have too much heart, too much fire to just lay down. Whoever it's going to be, whether it's going to be Carolina or Tampa Bay, look, they are going to put up a fight. So whoever's coming better come with all of it because we got the smoke and you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, we could talk about that later more and more as the season goes along. Because next week, like after these couple games, it'll be down to 20. I think down to 20 games, and then the countdown will like continue to go on. It'll be, but most importantly,
I think it even picks up even more when we get to 20. Like the end of March is really crazy. I think there's like a week where there's like 4 games, and another week where there's like close to there's 4 or 5 games. Something like it's
yeah,
crazy.
it's gonna get crazy. Yeah, like
Yeah.
like JJ said, it's gonna be like game after game after game.
Yeah.
So definitely got to keep got definitely got to keep got to stay laser focused because this is something it's something that hasn't been done in almost hard to believe, like 16 years. So anything is possible, right?
Yeah. That's
Man,
a hard pill to swallow when you say that number out loud.
I know.
When you say that number
Doesn't
out
feel
loud.
like it though. It feels like it was yesterday, dude.
So the Phillies have had less of a drought playoff wise than the Flyers.
It's almost
Wow.
20 years. Hard to believe. Well, actually, they were in the
Well,
postseason, but talking about the finals run was like, yeah.
Well, the Phillies though, they broke in 2022. It was like 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they only had 11 years. The Sixers, I forget how it was.
Something like, yeah, they had a little bit of a drought too from 2001, from 83 to 2001. I mean, they made the playoffs, but they weren't like significant. I think it's around the same time frame as the Flyers. I think it was like 18 years instead of 16.
Yeah, but like still, like it just recent, like 16 years of not making the playoff. I'll be honest with you, James. I've watched a lot of Flyers hockey. I'm 45 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you this right now, like I know that this is like a bad trait for a fan, but like
it was.
I always took for granted the Flyers were making the playoffs. Like I watched the regular season when I could, but I was like, like how people say I'll see them in October with baseball. I kind of was like, I'll see them in April. Like,
yeah, you kind of paint the picture, you know?
Yeah, and now it's like 16 years of not having it.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I kind of overstepped. It was 16 years since they made the finals last, but it was almost actually it's been a decade, like almost half a decade since they were actually in the postseason. Because, mind you, too, I think it was 2018 the last time they were actually here in Philly for a playoff game. Like we're talking like before I started to do Pass and have the other show with you guys, obviously. But that was a bad time too. That was still Chuck Fletcher, I think, at the time too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, no, that was Hackstall.
That's right. Forgot about that. Yep. Wow,
that was still when we still had Hackstall as our coach. But yeah, I mean, like that's here's the thing, James. The straw has to break the camel's back at some point.
Absolutely.
We have to break that glass ceiling at some point. And maybe it's this team.
Like Van Halen.
And maybe it's the idea that this team projects themselves to be whatever they want. US won gold for the first time in 46 years. It's time for the Flyers to get back to the finals for the first time in 16 years.
Well, I will say this right now. If it happens next year, like for 17 years, I mean, if they make the playoffs, but say, for example, they get eliminated in the second round, at least they can have momentum moving forward in the next season. And then they'll be hunting for bears. Okay, we got here. Now we go all in.
Yeah. And I think that'll make the front office
ecstatic.
The one thing that Jones and Briere both said is the players will dictate to us how fast or slow the rebuild goes. Right. So if this team and the players get to the second round in the playoffs, that dictates to the front office they're close. We just need to put some pieces in the right places, and we could be a cup contender.
Right.
We're close. We need to get closer. And
absolutely.
Not pull a Dave Dombrowski and go backwards.
No, you do not want to do that. Because that's the other thing too. I know we got to wrap it up here, but that's probably why Dave. I thought about this too with Dave Dombrowski, and the light bulb just hit on my head. He's probably still reminiscent about that 22 run and said, "Yeah, we got a good club," and then you think it's going to happen overnight just like that, but it's not going to happen. I mean, you got to build, like the Eagles do it right. I mean, Howie Roseman does it right. Like he gets rid of the players that he can't keep, but he also gets back some players in that process that are better, you know? I mean, 2017, they brought in like Alshon Jeffrey and this, that, and the other, but then they got the Super Bowl, but then the next year they try to run it back with the same group of guys, and it started to shit the bed. I mean, now the Eagles are doing it right again. The Flyers need to do that same thing too. They got the young team there. They just need two more, maybe one or two more players away from considering them to be back in the postseason. But right now, like I'm hoping on whatever date it is, either April 17th or whatever the circumstance may be. I'm hoping I'm going to a Bards and I rep in my chemo team in New Jersey that I haven't repped in almost 3 years, Joe. I bought it for somebody bought it for me for Christmas like 3 years ago, and I still haven't worn it.
Well, here's the thing, James. The one thing I will say, in regards to to this team, you mentioned about how many players they could be away. I would go and say, because we talked about the trade deadline and everything, I would say one really good defenseman and one and two really good centers. Yeah, I think because Couturier, he may not be long for this team that much longer. So that being said, you have to replace him as a center. And then you have to bring in another center that's going to be able to play that second or third line very well, especially with the power plays and the penalty kills. So, look, again, 23 games, 6 points back. It's time for good Flyers hockey now. The ball, as you would say, the ball is in their court. They have to just use it. They have to do what they are capable of doing. And I'm a firm believer the flag's not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere either. That flag's not going anywhere either. I'm repping this T-shirt. Obviously I've been wearing it ever. Not kidding you. I probably wore it ever since I bought it for Christmas. But I'm trying to give an understanding about I need this. I need Flyers playoff hockey in my blood. It's like once you're hungry and you're starving, like you really want to eat something. I'm hungry for Stanley Cup playoff hockey to come back to Philly. That's the thing, Joe.
Yeah. It's time to put the
it's
orange
time
crush back on.
Yep, maybe it's time, right? Yep. So that's gonna do it for us here today for this edition of This Week in Flyers Hockey. I want to thank Joey once again for doing such a great job like he always does. We will be back with you again next week, so we'll be talking about hopefully some 3 good wins with the teams like I mentioned tonight against Toronto and then Utah and then Pittsburgh. And also, maybe we'll move one step further to see what the Flyers will look in the next 20 games, and the countdown will continue to go on and see, hopefully, maybe a little bit of a streak in the next couple weeks or so, too. But so now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here now, for Joey Marks, for Austin Hammel, I apologize for him not being here today. It was a great show, but hang in there, buddy. Hope everything is okay on your end. Until then, I'm James Scorza, and this has been This Week in Flyers Hockey. And like I always say, from all of us to all of you, thank you for watching. Good night, good hockey, and we'll see you guys next week.